doing this weird thing recently. After 4 seconds,
There
it
it
breaks.
goes.
Okay,
But no,
Nobody move.
we're good.
it's
Nobody
working.
move.
Spectacular.
Yeah,
Okay.
wonderful.
Wonderful.
There we go. Now we're
Okay.
officially recording.
This is a good
Welcome
start.
back, Mr. Third Timer.
Thanks.
Excellent.
Um,
We were talking about it just
It's very
yesterday.
exciting.
You
Yeah.
are our first guest. You are our first second timer guest. But you are our second third timer guest. So somebody lapped you.
That's right. Yeah. You and Danny are tied for most regular reoccurrences,
Yeah.
so might have to have you
We
battle
should
to the
have like a
death.
prize for the first person gets to 5. So we have some time to figure out what the prize is.
well, I got to tell you, it's been really interesting to see all of the companies in this sort of power beaming space that are trying. There's not a lot, and generally, space power beaming is one of there's like two technologies that you can think of when you think of beaming energy, and that is through
Mhm.
laser, like we're talking about here, or through microwave. Back like 5 years ago, I remember talking to some executives at British Petroleum who said that they
Mhm.
were going to address the electric vehicle charging infrastructure solution by beaming power from space to travel America truck stops. To And this was executives. Now I don't know if they're still at BP, but this was back when there was still the pledge for, I think, the 20% green energy production as part of their revenues for
Mhm.
BP by like 2030. All of that, of course, has been walked back now. But interestingly though, BP Pulse is putting EV chargers on the road. This has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, obviously, but what it does have to do is that even corporate America has been talking about beaming power from space for at least a half a decade, um, and now we're at the point where it is a viable technology. Um, Overview is planning in a few years to put a demonstration low Earth orbit satellite up to demonstrate that it is indeed possible at measurable power levels that can not only illuminate uh, a solar receiving station, but also provide enough measurable power to connect it to the power company and transmit and actually feed power from space through a concentrated space laser to an Earth receiver and then out to the power grid. That is the core of the technology, the core of the deliverable to humanity, is to create that. And now the overall goal, imagine a network of 1,000 geostationary satellites, each capable of beaming 1,000,000 watts of power to the Earth on a laser beam, uh, spot size of about 2 to 5 kilometers. So you're going to have a pretty large solar field, solar farm. Now, that one satellite, as you know, if you have a farm that big, that farm isn't actually a megawatt farm. That farm is 10, 15, 20 megawatts, which means you need to focus 20 satellites on the same farm, just so you know. But we'll have those satellites. It'll be a constellation in orbit. So you're taking 20 satellites and you say, hey, 20 satellites, why don't you beam power to this specific beacon? So the beacon is
Mm.
like a lighthouse, if you will, and they all find the lighthouse, and then they use the beacon to point the power to the Earth.
So maybe let's just take a step back for a moment and like firstly, welcome to all of our listeners. We've jumped right into the
I
deep
love it.
end.
I
I
love
love it. We have our returning guest, Dimos Katsis, joining us now. Like every time we have had you on, you've been talking about some crazy, in a good way, crazy groundbreaking technology from Blue Origin, solar powered flight, and now this idea of solar powered energy, but not in the way that I guess people think. So, what really is, maybe just to contextualize for listeners who aren't familiar with the idea of beamed energy, what what's the niche, so to speak, that this is filling in? Why is traditional solar power not good enough for
Well,
us?
as you know, solar power is completely driven on weather and availability of sunlight. And those items together are why people say, oh, well, solar power is no good at night. And if I have a bunch of cloudy days
Mm-hmm.
and I've got batteries that are running my cabin or my home or what have you, I run out of power. And if I combine
Mm-hmm.
that with winter weather, fewer hours of sunlight in the day, then that enormous investment that I made, which is great in the summer, isn't so great in the winter. So normally what
Sure.
we do when we size a solar farm is we take a overview of all of the climate conditions and historical climate data, and we look at the
Mm-hmm.
inclination of the solar panel, and we put it in a software package developed by the Department of Energy called PV Watts. And if you go to the website of the Department of Energy or you type in PV Watts into your browser, you'll find this calculator, which will tell you the based on 100 years of weather data, what your solar farm will do. And you
Mm-hmm.
discover that there are places in this world that are good for solar farms, and there's places where they're not. So, what if we could upend that equation and bring you sunlight when you needed it in the winter, at night, at your leisure, or on a subscription basis? Maybe once a week, we top off your batteries at night for a few hours and beam some energy at you. Your
Ooh.
solar farm doesn't need to be changed. It's the same solar panels you're using all the time. But now, one thing that we'd like you to do is maybe point your solar panels straight up because we're up in space. So, well, so if your so it helps if your solar panels have the ability to twist, and a lot do. A lot of solar panels do follow the sun on, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
one axis. Occasionally, you'll see a two axis, but generally it's just one axis, which is fine. So then we have satellites in different places in space. So what we can do is we can say, okay, we'll identify your specific solar power farm. We know about you as a subscriber to our service. Now we'll pick the just the right mix of satellites that are pointed in just the right direction. We're going to tell them to move that beam in your direction. So
Towards a
the
person's
Mm-hmm.
mirrors start
private
turning.
home? Towards a
Yeah.
person's private
Well,
home?
it's better for like a large solar farm. Um, I don't think most private homes are not going to be have an array large enough for the spot size. Like we have a pretty big spot size because geostationary orbit is
It's far
32,000
away.
kilometers away.
Yeah.
It's far enough away that the speed of light is actually part of our control algorithm for accuracy of pointing.
Wow.
What?
And
Okay.
so the spot
So we have
size that you're talking about, you said, is of orders kilometers.
yeah, 32,000 kilometers for geostationary. For low Earth orbit,
Mm-hmm.
we're only talking about like 100 kilometers is really at the very bare minimum, maybe more like 300 kilometers. And so at that point,
Mm-hmm.
we can direct all of our lasers and maybe create a spot size about 100 meters in diameter. That's bigger than
Okay.
most even home solar power systems.
How big is
It's
it in comparison to other like large solar farms that exist today?
well, 100
Uh,
meters in diameter
It's
is
pretty
it's
small.
100 yards. It's a
Yeah.
big array. As I mean, for like an industrial, like for example, it would work on the top of a Costco or a Walmart. Like you could have that as a
Mm-hmm.
roof mounted array. So a business user might say, "Hey, we want to offset our power and we'd like to buy a few hours a day from you as a regular customer. So why don't you shine all your lasers at us?
So I'm assuming that you have um, chosen this particular wavelength of light so that if you're at a higher altitude and you can't so finely collimate the beam to be a small area, it's not like dangerous or anything to have excess light, right?
Yeah. So the energy levels that become harmful is around, let's see. Well, for example, let's talk about what energy levels we're come to expect on the Earth. Um, right now, in space, you get about 1,500 watts per square meter of solar array. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a meter tall. No, am I a meter tall? Yeah, not 3 feet tall. I'm 6 feet tall, so
Well,
I'm 2 meters
I'm
tall.
I'm 2 meters tall. That much.
Okay,
That's how I do my conversion.
so I'm really 5 feet. It's 9 inches. 5 feet point 5.799 inches tall. That creates so that's a 2 meter. So say half my height and then half my width is a meter. That is 1,500
Mm-hmm.
is a full sunny day. We are far below that. We're 20 times less than that by a single beam. And then the expectation is when we have 20 beams, we're still not quite a fully sunny day. Now, as you know, if you look up at the sun directly with your eyes, you're going to hurt your eyeballs. It's even recommended
Right.
that during eclipses, you have to wear special protective hardware to protect your eyes from burning the retina
Mm-hmm.
if you look into the sun. This kind of space transmission is below the threshold where you would burn your retina. So we're at
Huh.
maybe 1/10 or 1/20th of that power. But here's where the special sauce comes
Mm-hmm.
in. Because we're beaming at near infrared, solar panels on the Earth that are normally 20% efficient with full sun exposure, when you beam just
Mm-hmm.
narrowband infrared at those, solar panels become twice to 3 times more efficient.
Oh
So even
wow.
though we have a low intensity of light, a moonlight, if you will, on those solar panels, the solar panels are doing a much, much better job, 3 times better, up to converting that to electricity.
So you're gathering all this light from the sun,
That's
but you're disregarding most of it. You're just saving this one bandwidth of light,
We're
and then
converting
sending
that.
that,
Yeah, we're converting
converting it.
that energy
Oh,
directly
okay.
to electric and then rebeaming it at infrared frequencies.
What percentage of the energy that the satellites are going to gather from the sun is going to actually be converted and make it down to Earth? Is there
So
does it just
we
the
convert
satellite go straight down, or does or
about half
is
the
there a
power that the
percentage lost?
satellite collects is beamed.
Okay.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And then from that, you can convert 1/3 to a half of that to electricity on the ground. But let's look at the economics. It's expensive to put a satellite into orbit, right? However, if it can last
Mm-hmm.
in orbit, it's there forever. I mean, say you get 10, 20 years out of that satellite, pointing it around to other clients or whatever. Once it's up there, the cost of ownership in space is actually quite low. You
Is
do
it going to
have like
need
a ground
fuel?
station you have to talk to it at.
Is it going to need
Ah,
fuel
here's
to
the best
adjust
part about
itself?
it. We have solar sails. We have, so the solar
Oh.
panels we have act as massive sails that allow us to adjust our orbit based on how we turn the panels relative to the sun.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
that's brilliant.
Okay.
This is stuff you were reading about in Popular Science back in 1983.
And
Didn't
so,
take that long.
okay, that's mind blowing. With the you said like about a third of the energy that's beamed down is converted into electricity,
Yeah,
something like
one
that. Does
third
that
to one half.
depend on? Okay,
Yeah.
one third to a half. Um, so does that depend on um, atmosphere transparency or like opacity at particular wavelengths,
Ah,
or
good
what's
question.
the?
Atmospheric absorption of near infrared light definitely the atmosphere will absorb light at around 920 nanometers. We beam it at a much
Hmm.
higher effective transmissivity. So we can be at 85 to 90% of the light gets through the atmosphere at 960 nanometers.
Ah,
Yeah. So we
This
pick the wavelength
okay, wow.
that gives us the best performance to poke through the atmosphere.
And so that's what, like, J band. Sorry, I think about everything as an astronomer, so I'm
Okay.
trying to.
So I think deep red
Yeah.
is at 1,000, or not at 1,000. I'm sorry. Deep red is at 800, I think, nanometers of wavelength.
Hmm.
Let me hold on. Let me ask the internet. What is the
And yeah, 1,000 nanometers would be 1 micron, right? And I think the lowest infrared band in wavelength
okay?
is like 1 and a bit
So
microns.
deep red light has a wavelength around 650 to 670 nanometers. So our
Hmm.
wavelength is increasing. We're infrared, so we're deeper than red. And notice I used my deep voice.
Right.
So
I did notice that. Yeah.
so 960, way deeper than red. So we're going deep. But as we go further deeper, then the atmosphere starts to absorb. In fact, you don't have to go too much larger than that, maybe towards 1,000 nanometers, where atmosphere is absorbing 70% of that heat. Now, here's an interesting
Ooh,
question.
yeah.
As climate change increases uh, carbon in the air, that actually starts to absorb more of the infrared, but we can pick our wavelengths.
Hmm.
So, yes, the sun is putting all the wavelengths into our atmosphere, and our atmosphere is going to get hotter because of increased parts per million of carbon dioxide. Right now, I think we're exceeding 400 parts per million in on average in the atmosphere.
Hmm.
Let's say 30 years ago, we were at 100 parts per million. Um, Now, what's happening
Yeah.
is with these parts per million, that's increasing the absorption of infrared and causing the atmosphere to heat up, because that's now greenhouse, what we call greenhouse effect. There's science behind that, and it's what carbon does. But carbon's um, uh, absorption is frequency dependent. So if we have a laser, we can kind of work around that. And the best part
Hmm.
about it is the solar cells love that color of light. They love that color of light. It's not a color that is available at night. It is a color available during the day, but because there's all these other colors coming in, solar cell gets hot and gets inefficient and doesn't like it. You're essentially hitting the solar panel with a bunch of baseball bats at different lengths of the baseball bat. And some baseball bats are converting electrons and holes into electron hole pairs, which cause current to flow. The other baseball bats are just banging on the solar
Hmm.
panels and making lots of heat. Every baseball bat being a
And so this is more
photon.
narrowly
Yeah,
focused.
so every baseball bat is essentially a
Right.
photon of light hitting the solar cell.
I love baseball. I love science. This works for me. If we're using this invisible eye safe band of light, is that going to interfere? Do we know with any possible wildlife or aviation that's going on in the area, or it's just going to go through?
So first, I wanted to set the record straight. The band isn't eye safe. It generates heat too in the eye.
Okay.
It's just the intensity that we're bringing it in is eye safe, but
Got
it is dangerous. You can't see it. In fact, it's more dangerous because you can't see it.
it. Ugh.
Now, animals can, and
Hmm.
if you wear your infrared glasses, you can see it. And also, a lot of cameras can actually see this bandwidth of light easily. You just can't see it, but like your iPhone camera is going to be like, oh, the entire backyard is lit up. Why is my backyard lit up like it's daytime in my iPhone camera, but I can't see that? Oh, and by the way,
Hmm.
your iPhone FaceTime face recognition is using the same wavelength that we're transmitting at. So you're blasting your face with infrared, high power infrared, uh, every time you lift your phone at your face.
Really?
Oh, yeah. In fact, if you put a solar panel in front of your iPhone, you could charge your other iPhone from the energy coming off of facial recognition. We've demonstrated that. It's
Really?
blasting your face with like 3 watts of infrared energy. Wash your
Please tell me
face
that someone's tested that, like
with your face.
the infinite energy cycle of charging an iPhone from the iPhone screen.
I guess you put them close together, and they're using a
Yeah,
lot better.
because what it's doing is using infrared light to create a facial map, and then its facial recognition software does that all without using a flash or blinding you with a bright
Hmm.
light.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
So cool.
my my love hate
Ben,
relationship
you
with
remind me of
iPhone is
Max
just
Headroom.
getting
You're
worse.
like trying to process all of
I am. I can't think like a person. I literally have to shake my head side to side and rattle the gears, and just to get it to process.
What a throwback! Sorry, Max
it.
Headroom. I know, I love that. Just casually dropping
Speaking of a
that.
throwback, I used to play a game called SimCity 2000. It is a fine video game. I think it still holds up. And when you play that game, for people who don't know, you have to build a city, roads and plumbing and residential areas and industrial areas and so on. You also have to choose your power plant. And in it, there's a microwave power plant. And since it's a video game, one of the little catastrophes that happens is sometimes the energy you're beaming down from space misses the power plant and incinerates the neighborhood nearby. I'm
Yes,
not suggesting that what you guys are
I
building
love
is going to
that.
incinerate, but is there a chance that you could miss your target receptor on the ground? And if so, what would happen?
We would actually have a hard time combining the beams because what'll happen is beams are still they're the it's the wave particle duality of light would make it nearly impossible to generate a beam so tightly composed that it would be able to be that tight and capable. We would literally interfere. The photons would hit each other. These baseball bats are coming from space, flipping around, wanting to hit solar panels, and instead they're hitting each other and creating interference patterns. So you'll get this kind of weird sort of bullseye feature, which essentially you might try to collimate the light and then it'll bullseye back out again. It would be nearly impossible to do what SimCity predicted, but I do offer great props to SimCity for predicting the fact that we're doing this. We're trying to do this right now, at least to bring energy from space to the Earth's surface.
Awesome. To be fair, SimCity also predicted
I mean,
Godzilla and other aliens too. So I mean, it's not really 100% on point.
I love that. I love that description of like the bullseye to describe the primary beam response of like an airy disk or Bessel
Yeah,
function. That's super cool. But sorry, I could nerd out for days. But it made me think of another direction. No pun intended. Can this technology be used to power things in space or on the
absolutely.
moon?
Yes, yes. In fact, right now, I'm I'm trying to talk the CEO into doing a lunar mission. I think other people are too. One of the things that we discussed on our last podcast was the ability to, and this was based on my work with another space company in Northern Virginia, that was responding to a challenge that the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency had developed
Mhm.
called the Luna 10 Infrastructure Program. So Luna 10 is, I don't know if you remember a series of articles on CNN's website about Nokia wants to put cell phone towers on the moon. And then there is this photo of the moon surface and these huge cell phone towers. Well, that was actually part of the DARPA Luna 10 challenge, and it's only one small part about it. DARPA Luna 10 challenge said, let's put cell phone towers on the moon, Wi Fi repeaters on the moon, solar
Mhm.
panels on the moon, and let's try to create a place where we can have moon bases, moon equipment. Um, but we also need to do this in a way that protects us from solar storms, solar wind, the occasional meteorite strike. And
Mhm.
how do we do that? Well, by having power beaming systems on the moon, say tall towers with lasers on top of them and beam directors that can turn around. We can spin, find a target, like, say, a little rover, or, say, Ben's summer home, and focus the laser beam at those places and charge those batteries. Why does Ben want a summer home on the moon?
Mm.
Because one, the views are spectacular. The Earthrise is beautiful, and three, his summer home is going to be under the edge of a moon crater. Why is that important? So he can protect himself from radiation, solar winds, and meteorite strikes. But it is cold
That's
down there.
exactly why I picked
Mm.
that location. Exactly.
Exactly. But it is cold down there, Ben. And it's
That's
300
why I'm beaming
degrees
energy so I can turn on my heater.
below zero. It's about 50 degrees above absolute zero. Yes, you're going to be running your heater, but you're also going to be using the Luna 10 infrastructure to collect solar electricity at other parts of the moon, which are now above the crater, and beam that energy to
Mhm.
you, to your home. So, a power beaming concept is actually quite common. And it's considered a much a much sought after technology for moving power around places where it doesn't make a lot of sense to build power transmission cables or run power line or telegraph pole. Harder to do that on the moon, but you can put lasers in convenient
Sure.
places and beam the power that way.
That's
Is there any risk or danger of, because Kavi and I were talking about this just before you got on, is there any risk or danger, say you set up a whole constellation of these satellites and they're gathering and beaming energy and everything, is there any risk that some other country or some nefarious organization could hijack it, I guess you could say, with some sort of cyber attack and redirect the energy to their solar panels or receivers in their countries?
I, there are various certification requirements to put something in space. You have to um, consult with I think, I forgot if it's Space Force who handles now the whole scheduling of what's in space, because we do have a record of the
Mm.
satellites in space, and we also have record of places in space that we can or cannot say, or we can't really acknowledge that there is a satellite. We just say that you can't go there. So we have all of these places in space for our, if you will, real estate. We have space real estate, and those those places, that same organization is like, well, look, here's some certain rules that you need to have for a ground station, and you have certain encryption. And
Mhm.
look, if someone takes over the ground station, maybe it like a James Bond style, swipe the key card, get into the room, and upload a virus or something, and talk to your satellite, then yes, they'll take control of it. They'll take that beam director and point it wherever they will. But you have to know where to point the beam director, which means you have to access to the
Mm.
master list of places you can point the beam, say other satellites. But there is this company that is doing transmission, satellite to satellite power transmission. I was just reading about it on spacenews.com. And I'm going to,
Oh, this sounds familiar.
I know it's called hold on a second. Satellite to satellite power transmission. There's a company, Sat Now Space Power Beaming Technology. So there's Sat Now, there's Space Solar, rated power. There's let's see, wireless power transmission for solar power satellite. There's one other company. Oh, I don't remember the name right now. Sorry about that. And but yeah, it's essentially microwave or laser. It's really the only options. So here we are. We have the ability to power data centers in space. So this company is also recommending, what we're going to do is we're going to move data centers into space, and we're going to provide power for them from a variety of sources so that we can process more
Mhm.
data. We can have solar cells on the opposite side. so that even if we're reorienting ourselves, we can constantly have a flow of power, because the power and data requirements are enormous, and also energy and transmission, data transmission requirements, because now you have to have large radios for downlink to the Earth.
Right.
How
And I guess. Oh,
I was
sorry.
just gonna I was gonna say I was wondering. I'm thinking if a data center went up into space, it would be its own satellite as well, and it would have its own solar arrays gathering electricity. But couldn't they just send up something with solar arrays big enough to get the energy they need, or is it really such a huge power suck it's going to need your constellation to feed them?
Here it is, Starcatcher. Starcatcher Industries wants to launch a power grid into orbit. So, Starcatcher is very different from Overview. Because what Starcatcher wants to do, and it looks like I have to subscribe now to NBC News to keep reading this article. But,
To get the full thing.
but what they want to do is power beam from collect energy with their massive solar arrays, then beam that into a tight beam to a satellite that
Mhm.
will do data center work. Now, why would I not just put the solar panels on the data center satellite itself? Right? It's right there.
Yeah,
Well, you'd have to
Mhm.
imagine deploying all of that into a single package. It's heavy enough just sending the data center to space.
true.
There's an IEEE Spectrum article for any of your readers who follow the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. Spectrum is one
Mhm.
of the finest electrical engineering and just engineering magazines in print right now. And their June issue is all about, in fact, they say the secret to putting data centers in space. And it's not all what it's cracked up to be. And the reason they say that is when data centers go into space, they also have to bring radiators with them to radiate the enormous amount of heat they generate into space. And because
Mm,
there's no convection of atmosphere, it's extremely difficult to radiate that heat into space. In fact, the way you do it is let's say you have let's say you have 8,000 watts of a brick that you would build your house with. Let's say tiny brick about that big, about the size of a graphics card that you'd
Mhm.
put in your old desktop computer. That graphics card can be mounted to an aluminum plate, and that aluminum plate will then can be treated with materials, and those materials will have a high emissivity and will emit the infrared radiation into space, and it will cool down. Well, 1,000 watt brick, like a typical data center graphics card running full tilt, will need a square meter of radiator for a
wow.
brick that's the size of two index cards. So that gives you an idea of now. And now the thing is, that's just one brick. I want 100 bricks in my satellite. So now
Right.
that satellite that I've just pushed to space, which is my in space data center, is massive. And it's not even
Yeah.
capable of generating its own power. It's just trying to get rid of its own heat. And that's why this IEEE article is like, wait a minute, don't think we're just going to fill up space with data centers. That's an engineering miracle.
How big
So
are the overview satellites going to be in theory for your
2 football fields,
geostationary constellation?
2 football fields.
2 football fields. That's American football, so much bigger.
Oh, because of the solar
Yeah,
sails.
a solar sail. Yeah. Well, the solar sail is the solar panel.
That's true, but
Yeah,
that's not the bulk of the mass of it, is it? I'm sure there's going to be some clunky
that's most
center
of it.
that's like the size of a bus or something.
Nope, center
Oh
is almost
gosh.
non-existent. It'll just be what everything folds into.
Huh.
Um, if you compare it to the size of a person, um, it would be like standing next to a large hotel. That's how big the satellite will be in its fairing. Like it'll be 4 or 5 stories tall. I would say more like 6 stories tall and 9 meters thick. But then that 9 meter cylinder unfolds like origami into this rubber band powered origami that just unfolds itself into this massive flower in space. But it
That's
will be
awesome.
tall. Yeah.
That's super cool.
Can we
And
go to a
that's what
launch?
will. Can we go to a launch? I want to go to a launch. I've, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I have not been anywhere near a rocket that's been launching. I've only been near rocket engines that have been firing. That's scary enough, but I would love to
That's
buy.
still pretty cool.
Yeah, I would love to be near a launch. When a rocket engine is firing, the whole Earth is shaking,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's just a single rocket engine. Imagine all seven of them firing up as they would New
Mm,
Glen's booster. Of course, then New Glenn had that terrible accident a few months ago, where they did lose their first stage. But
That's okay. That's what practice is for.
they have another booster that it's one that hasn't flown. I don't think it's flown yet, and that's what they're going to try to use. They that same day they blew up that rocket, they had received word from NASA that they received budget funding for two lunar rover missions from NASA, and then that evening blew up their
good
launch
timing.
pad, the only
There you
launch pad
go.
that could take them to the moon. So tears of joy followed by tears of tears. I don't know if it's
Jeez. Oh, God. Man, it's crazy the time that we're living in to be thinking about, and I mean it's because of companies like Blue Origin and SpaceX doing all of this work to lower the cost of launching things into space, that companies like Overview it's even, as you said before, economically feasible to create a constellation that can do something like
yeah,
this, right?
yeah. That the idea of sending something up into orbit that can do that, and the fact that we have the technology to do it now is amazing. Because imagine sending something like the size of a Greyhound bus or a tour bus, or two tour
Mm-hmm.
buses stacked on top of each other, which is quite large relative to a person. And knowing you could do that one, and then knowing that it'll unfold itself into this football field or two football fields, and then the fact that you can now point that in space and then do something with it, do something useful with it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And now then think, well, we're going to do 1,000 of those or 10,000 of those. Holy smokes. At least at Geo, you don't see them, right? When you look up in the sky. Right now, if you look up into the night sky,
Hmm.
chances are very high you're going to see a, a SpaceX,
Starlink.
Starlink
Yeah.
satellite whizzing by.
Yeah.
That was gonna be my next
I,
question. If you put up 1,000 of these things that are each big as two American and or FIFA football fields, congrats, Spain, by the way. If you put 1,000 of these things up there, is that going to interfere at all with people in Kavi's field of work? I mean, I know it's two football fields
yeah,
big, but it's
astronomy.
also quite far away. Is that far away enough that it's going to not obscure what
I think at
SAR observation there?
32,000 kilometers, you're not going to see them.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
then
I
again, you
think
guys are
now
focusing on really small things
Kavi,
very far away too. So
yeah, Kavi's going to see them, but you're also like integrating data over time. You're exposing the same charged couple camera for a longer period of time, and there's a lot of image processing that happens to get rid of a lot of that garbage. But actually, I offer that back to you. What are your thoughts, given what I think is possible versus what
My
the reality is?
so yeah, so I was doing I was doing a bit of thinking about this before the episode, and naturally, when you're talking about beaming infrared light, my first thought is infrared astronomy, which is not my main
Yeah.
focus. But what I know is that most of the infrared telescopes that we use are space based,
Okay.
and so hopefully that will mean that the infrared telescopes are not likely to be at risk of catching a stray beam or anything like that.
Oh no, no. In fact,
What I
yeah.
would yeah
No, I was just going to offer that, like the
what
James
what I,
Webb
what I would think is
scope is quite far away from the Earth.
mhm, exactly, yeah, at a Lagrange point, yeah. One thing I think might be tricky would be to figure out the impact that it would have um, for ground-based telescopes. And so optical instruments do get star trails from Starlink, but us radio astronomers get unintended radio emission coming off Starlink satellites. I imagine that it's probably possible to have this sort of thing happening with overview. Um, so unintended like radio frequency leakage might be tied to communication. Because I'm assuming that you're communicating with the satellites as well, and that's not happening at infrared frequencies, right?
No, no, that would be done. Well, there is no. To be fair, there is a beacon that's beamed back up at the satellite that's captured by the same mirror that the beam director looks at. So that would need to be somewhere in that same range.
Okay.
It's a tight beam, and it's a single beam. It's collimated, and that beam does have enough energy that we have to manage it. So there is, but what it does is it improves the accuracy of the pointing, especially because the Earth is moving. It's geostationary, we're also moving. But there's also movement in space. I had no idea how much flapping structures have. There's a lot of forces in space due to solar winds, due to there's a continuous flow of there's a continuous movement, if you will, in space that you wouldn't think exists, but it does. That can apply measurable forces. For example, we can deorbit ourselves by shining our laser in an appropriate direction. Our laser is our jet engine.
That's very cool.
So we have to be careful not to point the laser in the wrong direction because we'll deorbit ourselves back into the Earth. Slow our orbit down or speed ourselves up, and when that happens, you change your altitude by
right.
selectively pulsing our laser. Say, hey, I'd like some more thrust in this direction. It's amazing.
That's crazy.
Space.
Well, you have to make sure you aim it right. You have to also make sure you aim it in a way that you don't just set yourself screaming off in the wrong direction.
And so, yes, and so what? Well, I guess there's what we call ISP, right? Where you have the integration of thrust over time, or you have a lot of thrust for a very short amount of time, or a very tiny thrust for a long amount of time. In either case, you could have the same ISP, and thus you can take something like, what was the name of the deep space probe that started with the letter C that went to Saturn?
Cassini?
Dumped itself.
Cassini,
thank you.
Oh, got it first.
I think good one. Had an ion engine and got up to like 36,000 miles an hour, and I think it had the force of 1 gram of thrust, but got up to that speed because it had years to do it.
Yeah.
Just fired that tiny little engine. Crazy. With, whatever, 5,000.
Quite literally the tiny little engine that could.
Yeah, and just be a little beam of xenon, a plume of xenon gas that's glowing blue. That was enough to get it to 36,000 miles an hour.
Nice.
Oh. All right, I think that we have to transition to a segment of our show that somehow you have avoided doing because you have been such an early supporter and contributor that you missed our adoption of the rapid fire round. So if it's all right with you, we're going to throw you into the deep end of our questions and quibbles.
All
right. So
if I get mad, I'll fire my infrared laser at you.
Oh, bring it. Oh, he did it for real.
I did it for real.
Oh, geez. So the first question on the topic of all of these wild, almost sci-fi like things that we've been discussing, what was the weirdest thing that you believed as a kid?
Oh my goodness. That you could travel in time with the stories from Star Trek, like with especially my favorite episode was the one where Spock builds a communicator and a viewer for his tricorder out of a bunch of vacuum tubes that he found at a radio shop in pre-World War II USA.
Damn. If only.
Okay. Next one. Which teacher had the biggest positive impact on you?
I think I had an eighth grade, I'm sorry, a seventh grade teacher who used a textbook to teach pre-algebra that was based on the art of MC Escher.
Wow.
Ooh.
And if you remember the art of MC Escher's illustrations, right, pen and ink, of impossible to realize geometric forms that you could never
Right.
build, like staircases that go up into each other but then go back down again, but they're still
Yes.
drawn as a single staircase.
Oh, way to go, Teach.
Yeah, it was an amazing
Nice.
textbook.
All right. What was one scientific discovery that you wish you could have witnessed in person?
Oh my goodness. The invention of the electric light bulb.
Oh, that's a good one. I don't think we've had that before.
Had that answer.
As a response.
I had a deep fascination in fourth grade with Thomas Edison. I found the book on a bookshelf as a little paperback book. I think it was maybe 50 pages. I think I read it 100 times from cover to cover. I just kept reading it over and over and over again.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
I was amazed by the story about the train conductor picking him up by his ears and pulling him onto the train cart that he ran his newspaper printing business from when he was just a teenager himself, and that caused his hearing loss. I don't know. It was a pretty poorly written book, but it was enough to.
It's enough to get the wheels going. I love it.
It was enough to get the wheels going.
If you had to pick one historical scientist to go bowling with, who would it be?
Oh gosh. Oh. I'm nowhere in. I never considered myself anywhere in the rank of any of these scientists. I'm not really a good math genius. I don't know a lot. Historical. I mean, I would love to go bowling with Neil deGrasse Tyson right now. I think he would be great. It would be embarrassing how like the IQ difference. So maybe I shouldn't choose that. Who would I choose? I love.
You're thinking, who's the dumbest scientist I could
dumbest
find?
Says the man who's building an electric constellation of electric farming satellites in space.
I know. Leo Farnsworth, one of the great pioneers of radio and television. Or his Irish counterpart, the guy who invented the first neon disc television.
So Professor Farnsworth from Futurama, that name was taken from a real person named Professor Farnsworth.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm so happy right now.
I love Futurama.
Love it. All right, so we have a couple of more serious questions now. If you were a sandwich, what kind of sandwich would you be?
I would be a Reuben. And because I'm a huge fan of the special sauce on the Reuben. Pastrami is such a wonderful, salty, and yet filling core. Sauerkraut, because I'm sour. I'm not a kraut, but I am. I'm a little like past my prime, but I still taste good. I'm deeply preserved.
Sauerkraut's delicious. It gets a bad rap.
Very precise answer. I like that.
All right, next
Not
one.
everyone orders a Reuben. I'm not for everyone. I'm not a turkey. I'm not a turkey sandwich. Right?
An acquired taste.
Yeah, I'm an acquired taste.
I love it. What is your most controversial opinion about pizza?
Oh, that's a great one. I'm a fan of white pizza. I like it when there's no tomato
Hmm.
sauce on my pizza. However, when I do have a pizza with tomato sauce, I like it to be Hawaiian pizza. And when I lived in
Nice.
Seattle, I was introduced to Humble Pie, a little outdoor pizza spot that operated 365 days a year. They had apple slice, walnut, and ricotta and mozzarella pizza, a white pizza that had those toppings.
Ooh.
So that would be my favorite pizza: the apple slice, walnut, ricotta, mozzarella pizza, with a splash of olive oil.
Wow.
That sounds
That
pretty good,
sounds I don't
actually.
want to try that at all. And at the same time I want to try it.
All right, next next question. What is your favorite scientific word or phrase?
Plasma.
Ooh,
Nice.
that's a good one. I don't think we've had plasma before.
Yeah, it's a good word because it's a fourth state of matter, right? It's the fourth state of matter. But
Hmm.
in Greek, it means the thing. That's kind of literally
You
how it
guys hear me?
says.
Everything went
There's there's ice, right?
gaga
There's
after I heard
solid,
plasma.
there's liquid, there's gas, and there's the thing. And it was kind of cool that the ancient Greeks had a fourth state of matter, but they couldn't really understand what the heck it
Hmm.
was, so they just called it all these states: earth, wind, fire, and ice, and the thing. And so that word surprises me. I still love saying it. Plasma.
The thing. That would be plasmos.
Yeah, plasma or
Or yeah,
plasma. Just plasma. It comes directly from Greek.
plasma.
Yeah, plasma.
Okay. Huh. I didn't know that. And it kind of aligns with a lot of the places where we detect radio emission from in radio astronomy tend to be like highly magnetized plasma. And as an observer, I tend to just kind of say, "Oh, it's the thing that's producing the emission," because I'm not like a plasma physicist or anything like that. So
Yeah,
I think I'm going to be adopting that attitude.
but yet it's also the pale yellow liquid component of your blood that makes up most of its volume.
Ooh, true.
Yeah. So plasma is used in a lot of places. Um, at
Okay.
fusion,
Nice.
right? We talk about plasma physics. I mean, plasma's everywhere.
Mm, yeah,
So the fluid part of the
it's the
blood,
thing.
and yeah, in fact, here Merriam-Webster takes it a different way from the New Latin protoplasm, a display, plasmatic adjective. So plasma from the star. Okay, so I don't know if the I'm Greek, right? So I'm always going to say it comes from Greek. That may not be true uh, for
Sure.
plasma, according to Merriam-Webster. So we have we have to take a rain check on
Yeah,
that
I'll take your word over Merriam-Webster. I've never met
one.
Merriam-Webster, but I've met you. So
Well, I oh wow, German from Latin, something molded from Greek, placein, to mold. Ah,
That it is from Greek.
to
See?
mold. Okay, so it is ancient Greek. Um, to mold something that's oh wow. Okay.
Okay. Let's go the other way. What is your least favorite scientific word or phrase?
Hmm. Discombobulate.
Ooh.
what don't you like about it?
Well, when have we ever combobulated anything?
Ah, yep,
I can
yep.
cover or I can discover. I can discombobulate, but
Or uncover.
can I combobulate?
Heck yeah.
This is like that line from 10 Things I Hate About You. You can be overwhelmed or underwhelmed, but can you ever just be whelmed?
Oh well.
Oh, well. All right. Next, next question. What is your favorite useless science fact?
I wish I had this question earlier. Okay.
Oh, no.
I am full of useless science facts, but not right
I
now.
love
Thank you
that.
for putting me on the. Oh, okay. One of my favorite useless science facts is. Oh no, it's actually quite useful. That every time you turn on an old-fashioned incandescent light bulb, a a ball
Mhm.
of useless electrons and ionized material forms around the filament that's getting hot, and eventually condenses on the other side of the glass. Um, it's what led to the invention of the vacuum tube as a device for controlling electrons. It is the most useful scientific fact I can think of. I don't know why I listed it as a useless one. What's a good useless one? I don't have a useless one right now. I am so sorry. Oh, I know. Something about dung
It's a little
beetles.
fun
There's
fact.
always something about a dung beetle.
What a left turn.
Just
That's
say
great.
that.
Yes.
Something about
dung
dung
beetles,
beetles.
yeah.
Perfect. That's how you
Something
wrap
of
it up right
theirs.
there.
I know I learned something about dung beetles that I thought was really great. But yeah. Um, so,
You'll remember it for when you come on for the fourth
Yes.
gosh. Okay. Useless facts about dung beetles. Okay, maybe we can bring this up in editing or something like that. Famous for rolling poop, using Milky Way to navigate and drinking
Yes,
feces
they do.
instead of water. Holy
Wait, they use the
smokes.
Milky Way to
Yes, they
navigate?
use stars to
Yes.
navigate where they go. Yes.
Thank you,
And
Ben.
you need a telescope. Not the
Okay,
dung
Ben.
beetle.
Ben,
What? Yes.
you're oh, this is great. Between Googling it and reminding you of something you already knew, I think you now have brought in the most awesome, useless, and most apropos scientific fact.
Oh, yeah.
I love that one.
I
I've
love
done
it.
it. It's on Science Actually, by the way, anybody else who goes online and goes to their daily science facts and Science Actually, I have covered the dung
They
beetle
are the
using the
only
Milky
But
Way.
hold on.
insects that are known to do that. Holy smokes.
Yep. Dung beetles and
Beautiful.
SR-71s. Okay. The SR-71, by the way, had a little camera at the top that looked at the stars to help it navigate because it was going way too fast for anything else. The stars were there.
Celestial navigation.
That's it.
And it was so high up, it had a great view.
All right. If you could rename one planet in our solar system, what would it be?
Pluto, back to a planet.
Damn right.
Just call it planet.
Just call it planet.
Change it. Take out the name Pluto, call it planet.
That'd be great. Name it planet.
It's controversial, right? Because they kind of unnamed it, but it's got moons, right? Doesn't it have moons?
5 moons,
Yeah.
right? Yes.
I think so. They're all named after Shakespearean characters, right?
Oh no, they're like the Netherworld characters. Or I don't know if that's Shakespearean characters.
The underworld.
But-
Yeah, Pluto, I guess, is a good.
Or maybe it's
Charon,
Uranus
Nyx,
that has.
Uranus has Shakespearean ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Uranus has Shakespeare. Yeah.
Of course, my name is.
All right, and the final question.
go for it.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yes. The Martian moons. Phobos and Deimos. Yeah. How did I not think of that? I have to say, and I hope this isn't insulting, but whenever I read Phobos and Deimos, I think about the characters from the animated Hercules movie, Pain and Panic.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because Phobos is like panic or fear or something, and those were.
Oh.
True.
Um, all right. The final question, the tough one. If you had to sing one karaoke song to save humanity from an alien invasion, what would it be?
No, Maneater by Hall and Oates.
Oh,
Nice.
that's
First of
that's
all,
that's a great
props to
answer.
Liking Hall and Oates. They're an
Watch out,
awesome
boy.
band.
He'll chew you up. She'll chew you up. Maneater. She's a maneater.
It's a great song. That's a great band. Love it.
Nice.
Okay.
Very, very nice. All right. I love that we have finally done questions and quibbles. Thank you for humoring us, Demos.
That's great.
Where can the good people find you, learn more about your work or about the work that Overview is doing, if they want?
I think, as usual, I'm not very big in the world of social media. I
Mhm.
of course, like everyone else, get all my news on social media now, which is sad. But and subscription to a few newspapers. But yeah, LinkedIn is where Overview mostly lives. Their website is great,
Mhm.
um, and well, all websites great, but no one goes to websites anymore. We just go to AI and have our website summarized, and so you'll find me there. I've I'm going to be posting a little bit more these days than I have in the past because I'm pretty excited about it. But yeah, you can learn a little bit about what I've done, where I've been, because the good thing with LinkedIn, and which doesn't happen in any other social media web service, is it gives you an easy history of what I've done in my career. Unless I
Mm.
create a website, I don't have that in any other social media platform. And so that makes me both dependent on LinkedIn to have people know what I'm doing, and at the same time lazy to let LinkedIn do it for me instead of me doing it for anyone else. And so I both am happy for LinkedIn and angry at LinkedIn for turning me into a lazy turd and not really providing, or dung beetle for not providing the information that I need on a regular basis. But yeah, so there it is. I wish it was more exciting. I wish I could say I had a TikTok channel. Um, but
You'll be on
yeah,
TikTok soon enough.
What about a podcast, maybe?
there are a few episodes of a podcast that I was deeply involved in, and I would like to make a shout out to Luxai and Arivna Media, where I have been part of the podcast universe with my co-host Alexis, and so yes, we have had some wonderful science podcasting opportunities out there, and I'm glad to say I was
Excellent.
part of that.
Nice. Benjamin, what about you? Where can folks find you on the interwebs?
As usual, please go look up Science Actually on all your favorite social media platforms, especially Facebook's the big one. Get those daily science facts and daily collective nouns like we kind of talked about earlier. And you can find out when we release a new episode of this wonderful podcast, and go to YouTube and go to TikTok if you want to see our faces making the sounds you hear. And Kavi, where are you? On the internet, that is.
Folks can find me at Fun Fact